Okay, so I've been meaning to make this video for a while. I wanted to talk about evolution, the evidence that exists for evolution, or at least the evidence that I know about and am familiar with that exists supporting evolution. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the reason why it has such wide support in the scientific community, which is, and by that I mean support by pretty much every scientist who works in the area of genetics, evolutionary biology, of course, and all these other things. So I want to be clear. First of all, this is not about this isn't an atheism versus religion video. I have no interest in whether or not you're religious. I've just heard so many different people make claims about evolution that makes me think they don't understand what a theory is, perhaps, or they don't understand, or they just aren't aware of the evidence, which is, it's fair enough. I'm not aware of the evidence for a lot of things, and, I might question those things because of that. The difference, of course, is I try not to question experts in areas because I don't understand their particular area of expertise, and that's something that's kind of bothered me a little bit in the talk about evolution. So I wanted to talk about some evidence. I wanted to talk about some of the things that make it a really strong theory. Yeah, I just want to be upfront about the fact this is not about religion. I'm kind of tired of that whole talk, and I think it's kind of a waste of time for everyone to spend their time trying to debunk each other. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to put this video out there. Anybody who doesn't understand anything I have to say about this, or who disagrees with some of my evidence, or who wants further clarification, I encourage you to make a video response, or to make a comment, or send me a message, and I will do my best to clarify specific areas that you don't understand, or answer concerns you have about evolutionary biology or evolutionary theory where I can. To give you a little bit of background, I'm studying bioinformatics. I'm getting near the end of my undergraduate degree, and bioinformatics is essentially the use of computers and computer algorithms to analyze and make predictions about genetic sequence, protein sequence, that's the amino acid sequence of proteins, and you can infer a lot of information about these based on evolutionary relationships between organisms and also between different genes and proteins within a single organism. And I'll try not to go into too much detail because this is kind of a field that clearly I'm pretty interested in. I'll try not to ramble on and bore everybody with some of this stuff. But I'd like to start off making the point that the reason that evolutionary theory is so strong in my mind and in a lot of people's mind is not because it easily explains everything, but one of the hallmarks of a strong theory is that you have a theory that describes phenomena you've observed, and then this theory is a strong theory when it can make predictions about behavior that you have not yet observed. So in the case of evolution, a huge boost to the evidence behind it was when we first started sequencing genetic sequences and found statistical similarities between them. And I can talk in detail about the kinds of statistical similarities we see and the reason why, and the many reasons that support these statistical similarities being caused by common ancestry. But the idea here is you have a theory that then predicts phenomena that no one's ever observed before. And you look for these phenomena, you find out, oh look, these are true, and that's supporting evidence for your theory. And a theory is not only stronger because of this, but it's useful. And that's one of the things I'd like to talk about here too. Nobody really claims that all of evolutionary theory is perfect. We still are understanding new things about genes and how they arise and so forth all the time. But the thing is what evolution does if you accept the theory, is it allows us to make predictions about things. Without our understanding of evolution, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things we do. I mean, one of the primary ways that we look for genes is using something called, you look for what's called homology. And homology just means that two genes arose from a common ancestor, or generally homologous genes perform the same function. They're usually slightly different due to modification through random mutation. But homology just refers to common ancestry between genes. So what makes evolution strong is that you have this ability to make predictions about the natural world. So it's effective. It's like maybe if our theory of like how an internal combustion engine wasn't quite right, but you could still build one. That's what I'm talking about. Here you have a set of principles that you can use to effectively create things, effectively predict things, and better understand the world. And it doesn't really matter. Like if you don't understand that combustion engine perfectly, well, maybe you're making some of your calculations imperfectly, or you don't understand some aspect of it. Not that at this point, of course, I'm not saying that we don't understand engines well, but my point is that the car will run, and your theory will be effective even if it's not perfect. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people miss about evolution is they try and punch these little holes in it, not realizing that those little holes don't make it ineffective. It's not like evolution is just this thing that we're like, oh, well, this would be a nice idea if this is how things happened before. Rather, it's an idea that we use to better understand things that are happening now. Almost all of three-dimensional structure prediction for proteins, and I realize most people probably don't have a very strong idea what proteins are, but they're folded chains of amino acids that perform various functions in your body, from anything from enzymatic reaction to messaging function to a million other things. But the point is, almost all of three-dimensional structure prediction for proteins is based on homology modeling, which is where you take proteins, you try and align the sequence with another protein that has some sequence similarity that you suspect is homologous based on statistical methods, and you take a known structure then for this known protein, and you use what's called threading, or well, threading is kind of an old term for it now. This homology modeling. You basically take the other structure, try and make an alignment to the old structure, and then you use various computational techniques to try and fix your protein into a conformation that fits with the old protein, and then is energetically favorable or more stable based on a lot of calculations that nobody probably wants to hear me talk about. So I just wanted to say that because it's important that people understand evolution isn't just like, well, this is how we think things work. Evolution is a tool we use every day. There are thousands of scientific publications yearly that don't talk about evolution so much as they use evolution as one of their foundational principles. And then they go on to show various effective methods of discovery for things, or prediction of things, or various other things. So you have evolution is it's a foundational theory in biology at this point. And again, it's not just to guess about how things might have happened. It's a tool, and it's being used every day. So, and people who say there's no evidence for evolution, there really is. There's tremendous amounts of evolutionary evidence. Every time we sequence a genome, we get more evidence for evolution. And I won't go into all the details about how this all works, unless somebody asks me specifically. But, I mean, there are databases full of this information that are publicly available. I'm happy to point you to any of them. Disagreeing with the scientific theory is perfectly valid, but please try and make the effort to understand the evidence and the facts behind it before you reject it for whatever reason, whether it be it doesn't make sense to you, and therefore you don't believe it, or someone else told you it doesn't make sense and you believe them so you don't believe it, or whatever your reasoning. I just think people who spend their lives doing this kind of work are owed the respect of at least having people listen to them when they talk about their specific area of expertise. So hopefully with some editing I'll be able to get this video down to a reasonable length and cut out some of my random rambling, and I can have a good talk with some people about this. And yeah, that's about it. Alright, well, thank you.